He deleted the tweet, but not before I got a screenshot. Elon Musk makes world-changing announcement I'm gonna share with you guys later in this video. Anybody here who enjoys petty arguments? Now, I've been told, Ronnie, you need to grow up. But I can personally say that I do hate it, especially if I know I'm wrong. I would rather just go ahead and admit it than continue digging a hole for myself. To be frank, I would appreciate if I was corrected because someone actually cares about the truth, right? Well, vaccine scientist Professor Peter Hotez got into some Twitter beef with Joe Rogan and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. About what? Well, regarding some vaccine stuff. And I understand that we all have a different take on that, much like these individuals, so we're not going to even get into that. So what happened though? Well, Hotez called out Joe Rogan's podcast for spewing out misinformation regarding the drug when he interviewed RFK, to which Rogan responded by saying, quote, "I'll give a ton of money to a charity of your choice if you want to debate RFK on my show." End quote. Sounds like a pretty good deal, right? But it seems like Hotez didn't think so. He kind of agreed in a tweet that he deleted. Luckily, I got the screenshot. Elon Musk is back with a vengeance as he says that Tesla is now close to achieving fully autonomous vehicles. Wow. So I guess Uber and Lyft side hustler drivers may soon be put out of a job. Now, this sent the stock market on a high as their shares soared. But here's a question. Will people want to use a car that doesn't require a driver? I mean, it would be kind of cool to take an Uber without an awkward conversation, right? And what wouldn't be cool is if it goes past the drop-off spot. But how about you guys? Do you trust this autonomous technology driving you around? Also, does anybody here own a Hyundai? They seem to be having some problems with their EV line as some owners are complaining that their cars are just shutting off out of nowhere. Now, imagine being on the highway when your car just shuts off. Ugh. No time to waste, folks. Let's get right into the facts. So, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been talking about autonomous vehicles for years now. And every time he does, people get really excited. Listen to this.
The value of the company is primarily on the basis of autonomy. So, in my opinion, because if you look at our total vehicle output, it's it'll be almost 2 million vehicles this year or something like that. But that's still only 2% of total vehicle production. So then why is our market cap so high? And it's because the potential for autonomy is that the value of autonomy is so high that even if you have a discounted percentage probability of autonomy happening, that is still incredibly valuable. So the average passenger car is used only about 10 hours a week. So an average of about 1.5 hours a day. But if you have an autonomous robo-taxi, the utility might be 50 or 60 hours a week out of 168 hours. So now you've got a vehicle that costs the same but has 5 times the utility. So it's so gigantic a change that's really, I think, the main driver of our value.
In theory, it sounds amazing, right? But some critics say that Elon Musk has been saying this for some time now, not to mention the possible accidents that may be caused by this kind of technology. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? Would you ever ride in a robo-taxi with no driver? If they ever do make it out of the manufacturing plant, it would be best to make sure that they don't randomly turn themselves off, right? A problem that Hyundai is having to deal with right now with their Ioniq 5 electric SUV. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But anyway, you guys could correct me down below. But and here's the good news. The company is already working on a software update, and they're also preparing to replace an affected component if necessary, a piece called an integrated control charging unit.
Elsewhere, owners have reported issues with Hyundai's Ioniq 5 electric SUV. They say they've experienced a loss of power after hearing a loud popping noise. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, many owners filed complaints about complete or partial loss of power. The agency received 30 complaints related to the issue in the 2022 models. Hyundai says that they'll provide a software update next month.
I mean, it sucks that this had to happen to a handful of customers, but at the same time, I am impressed at the speed at which Hyundai is figuring out what the problem is, what's wrong with it, and they're already offering replacements as we speak. Now, of course, I'm not endorsed by Hyundai, but I'm just pointing out some of the things that I've observed. Now, speaking of offers, Joe Rogan just made a huge one to Professor Peter Hotez. Who is he? Well, he is one of the key voices for the vaccines during the health crisis. I guess he wasn't happy about what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had to say on Rogan's Spotify podcast as he tweeted this, quote, "Spotify has stopped even short of trying to stem Joe Rogan's vaccine misinformation. It's really true. At Anna Merlin, just awful. And from all the online attacks I'm receiving about his absurd podcast, it's clear many actually believe this nonsense." End quote. Okay, as we all know, RFK is very critical of the vaccines that were disseminated during the health crisis. Although, like I always say, we have our own opinions on that. I'm not going there. But Rogan was quick to challenge Hotez by tweeting this out. Quote, Peter, if you claim what RFK Jr. is saying is misinformation, I am offering you $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you're willing to debate him on my show with no time limit, end quote. Which is basically saying that if you think you're right, I'm going to give you $100,000 just to talk to my guy. But of course, RFK has to be down for it, right? And yeah, of course he is. Check this out. RFK responded by saying this, quote, Peter, let's finally have the respectful, congenial, informative debate that the American people deserve, end quote. Now I want to ask you guys, do you think that we deserve to see this debate? As we all know, Kennedy Jr. is right behind President Biden in the polls. He's not at the cusp of taking the lead, but he's up there with him, which means that the current administration doesn't want a bigger spotlight on him. Hotez on his end has gone on mainstream media to say that science isn't debated, so talking to the presidential hopeful on a podcast won't do anything for him.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, is running for president. He's a vocal vaccine skeptic. Rogers' post comes after Dr. Hotez criticized RFK Jr. After a podcast he did with Joe Rogan. And in that podcast, Kennedy repeatedly pushed unfounded claims about vaccines, and he called out Dr. Hotez by name.
Nobody will debate me. For 18 years, nobody will debate me. I've asked Hotez many, many times to debate me. I've debated Hotez on the telephone with kind of a referee, and his science is just made up. He cannot stand by it. He can't cite studies.
He also told Rogan that the podcast host had his phone number and email and that he's open to talking to him, to which Rogan answered with some stuff that I really probably couldn't, maybe even shouldn't even say on this video, or YouTube may take this video down. And that reminds me, Hotez took the tweet down. Luckily, I got a screenshot though. So here's his response to the $100,000 offer. Quote, be serious, Joe. That's what you throw out for your hunting buddies on a weekend. A $50 million endowment, which you, Spotify, RFK Jr. can easily afford. Not for me, but so that we can continue making low-cost, patent-free vaccines for the world's poor, preceded by RFK Jr.'s public apology, end quote. Now, I'm not quite sure why he took the tweet down. Maybe it's because Rogan may have been down to offer $50 million as the prize for the debate, which means that the debate would have to proceed. It's kind of weird that he would say no to this kind of money, but given that he's convinced that he's right about the vaccines and all, right? Critics say that him saying no basically says that he concedes to RFK and thinks that a debate would humiliate him rather than make his point clearer. But hey, what do you guys think about this? Make sure you let me know in the comments down below. And since you're hanging out down in the comments, maybe you're looking for some money-making opportunities. The economic landscape of our country continues to go downhill, which means that it's up to us to find our own solutions. One of which is to strengthen our own cash flow. But how do we do that? Generating multiple streams of income is possible with side hustles and small businesses. The same way that you can actually make money while you sleep, so long as you make wise investments in gold, real estate, silver, or even in the stock market. But what's really important is that you're willing to learn and to adapt. That, and maybe you take a second and drop a comment down below and let us know how interested you are to learn about these new topics. Now, at this point, you should see 2 videos above my head. Go ahead and click on those now. But before I go, don't forget to drop a huge like for the video, share this video with everyone you know, and subscribe to the channel for your daily dose of the truth. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.